switch this guy for this guy. So what?
Yeah. I was thinking this summer that I knew Chelsea would go big, and I thought we would too, because we've got a strong financial structure in terms of making money, not just...
They just ruining the football at the moment. They just buying every single player that is worth of quality.
He will make a blooper, and that's no criticism of Henderson at all. Keepers make bloopers, and it just depends who you play for. He'll make a blooper, and then we put De Gea in, and then we wait for De Gea to make a blooper, and then we put Dean Henderson back in.
So TC, hello and welcome to Stratford and Russia. We are pleased to invite you and to see you. Could you please a little bit introduce yourself, and we go again with a discussion.
Absolute pleasure to be here as well myself. Hello everyone, Stratford and Russia. Yeah, I am TC from the 100% United podcast. Obviously following United, the ups and downs, a few more downs than we'd like at the moment, but hopefully on the way up. Obviously followed Alexei in the Stratford and Russia as much as I can, with not having great Russian, but absolute pleasure to be here and always great to chat about you.
All right, let me just plug in with some questions to you. So TC, we finished the season finally. What a long season it has been.
Like a dream.
Yeah, I mean, we finished third in the Premier League. We managed to achieve a semi-final of each cup competition. And what is your rating of that season? Probably what is your score? Is it a progress to the latest season? Are we making something? And what did you make of this season?
You know, it's evidently progress, right? We look a better team now in terms of structure. We look a better team from 1 to 11 as well. There's certain things that obviously need to be improved upon. We need to keep this momentum. We have a habit of, dipping into the Champions League places and then not going so hard in the summer, maybe in the transfer window, backing that progress and then progressing that a little bit further. In terms of the season, it's hard to rate it as a United fan. If I'm rating it from the best United seasons, then it's going to get a pretty low score. But if I'm judging it against recent seasons, look, we finished third, which is a massive improvement from last season. And although we fell at the final hurdle in each of the semis, we did get to those semi-finals as well. So there is obvious progress, but as at a club like United, we've got to aim for the top. We've got to always be pushing. We can't have Liverpool and City having cakewalks to the title while we're not doing anything about it. So in terms of the season overall, hard to give it a score, but I would say it is progress, but it was a season or two halves, wasn't it?
Yeah. Obviously, the season was divided by this awful pandemic. But I think United managed well this pandemic break because we obviously have returned with very refreshed, and we have some new additions like Marcus Rashford, Scott McTominay, Paul Pogba getting fit. And I think we saw the result of this in the first 5 or 6 matches. We were pretty fresh, attacking force, and so on and so forth. I mean, yeah, of course you could say we've beaten Bournemouth, Sheffield, and Brighton, and it's not really the top sides. But I mean, we were struggling against these tops,
Yes.
Not the top sides. I mean, we drew against Villa at home at Old Trafford. I think we have lost to Bournemouth previously in the first round of competition. So I believe it's a huge boost after the pandemic. But I mean, if we're speaking about like a progress and stuff, I mean, this is the time to make progress, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just for me, it's just like the situation with Joze, obviously, because he took the job, he got the 3 titles for us. I mean, the Community Shield, Yeah,
We'll call it 2, shall we?
yeah, the community shield. All right, he showed 3. It's his favorite number, I think. From now on, we've got into the Champions League and we receive a bigger amount of money to spend. So we bought like Lindelof, Lukaku, Matic.
Exactly. Yeah, he was back then, but then we really needed to back him again or get rid of him, didn't we? We kind of got stuck in between a rock and a hard place there.
Yeah, of course. I mean, and that's the situation I see now. We now make a huge step forward. So we get rid of all the dead wood, almost all of the dead wood that we had. We still have something inside the team, but this is, I believe, this season is the maximum of this team, of this squad. To get it closer to City or to Liverpool, we need like 4 or 5 signings, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is what we've done so well in the past is beat the fodder of the league, right? You know, you look at the other leagues around the world, and you just dispatch the teams that are obviously inferior to you. I mean, we need 5 or 6 players to be competing at the top level in Europe, at the top level with the likes of the unmentionables above us. But we've got more than enough in that squad and on that bench to be beating the others, the 15 down the bottom. So on one hand, I do agree. We definitely need more squad strength, and we definitely need a better first team in terms of competing at the very top, being one of the best teams in Europe. But to improve on the 66 points, we have got a team that can do that as well. So we definitely need to make moves in the transfer market. But at the same time, Ole struggled, didn't he? Beating, as you mentioned, a few of those games before, Burnley as well. We dropped 3 points back in January. If we can continue in that vein and beating those teams, then we've done pretty well in the big games as well, haven't we? So we definitely need more, but at the same time, we need to react better when we go on a sort of negative run. We do so well when we've got momentum. We fly, but then teams kind of seem to work us out a little bit, and we have 3 or 4 games where we have to get the engine going again, and that's points dropped.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the reaction, and it was an interesting thing that we obviously go in our videos through the statistical part of the season and so on and so forth. And it's interesting fact that United started to score more in the first half. But then we completely downgraded ourselves in scoring in like the late goals, like Sir Alex Ferguson, like under him. And it's interesting, and I believe that this team a little bit, even with the addition of Bruno, we still lack a bit of confidence. When Seville scores the second goal, like I felt, oh my God, we are so in trouble right now, because we cannot react with the sides like Seville, and score and outscore them, especially when the keeper is doing the match of his life. I mean, we've missed so many chances against Seville, but I'm talking about Seville a lot because we'll be playing the Champions League next year, and there are plenty very, very decent sides like Seville. And so on. We wouldn't be playing Lask or Copenhagen, know?
No, and we struggled against them as well. I mean, what do you think in terms of, obviously Ole's coming into a bit of criticism in regards to his inability to press the button on the substitutes early? I think that might have had an effect in terms of our lack of late goals. Normally you're chucking on different options, keeping the other team honest, where we kind of try and do the same thing again and again, and the game can kind of get away from us sometimes.
I would agree with you. I believe that would be a reason, because but again, there is 2 parts of the medal. On the one hand, yes, we have like Ighalo and James and Lingard, for example, like to switch the flanks and put the big forward up front and just try to get a lot of crosses to him. And Ighalo is a kind of physical guy. He knows how to position his body. He plays with his head, not really bad. But that's the first point. The second point, I believe that Ole has a message to Glazers, probably. I believe he wants to show that, all right, this is the squad that can do things, but I don't have enough options from the bench without losing the quality of the game. Because if you put Igalo and James Lingard, for example, this is okay, this is the refreshment, but again, in terms of quality of the game, this is the switch from very complicated like combinational football to like straight football. And direct, and I believe this is kind of thing that Ole should be very careful with, because we know the Glazers, they don't really understand football at all. I mean, okay, he switched this guy for this guy, so what?
Yeah. Yes, no, I do agree on one front. I mean, on one hand, you could say Sevilla brought on Luke de Jong, didn't he? And he wouldn't even get on our bench, but he still got the winner. So changing a player does have some kind of effect, even if he isn't up to the same standards as the player he is replacing. I just wonder, last summer, we did seem to get rid of a lot of deadwood, as you say. We also got rid of quite a few players who were playing a lot of games, who were having an effect on games as well. And I just wonder, I still wonder whether Ole was totally happy with that, whether he went for Haaland, didn't he, in January? He went for Bruno in January, got Igalo in January. And that's when it turned around, when we had those extra, Igalo played quite a few games before the lockdown. It did change around when we had those other options come in. So I just wonder whether when, the likes of Lukaku went, if he did really want a replacement then and had to sort of, get through to January before getting the reinforcement. So on one hand, I think we did leave the squad short, but I don't know whether that can be levelled at Ole or the powers that be.
Yeah, I mean, of course, Haaland. I mean, it's obvious now, as with Sancho, that we were in the race for Haaland. But okay, he chose Dortmund and he did well there. I mean, Ole surely understands that. Yeah, I will get rid of Lukaku because Lukaku wasn't playing the football and he didn't suit the role of the center forward, and I believe Ole needed more, and he understood that we don't have Bruno at the start of the season. Okay, we have Pogba, but I mean, it turned out that Pogba missed the complete season.
Yeah.
That's
a massive thing as well. Sorry to interject, but Pogba. I mean, I did say at the end of the summer, I said I was desperate for Bruno. I know you listen to the pod. I was desperate for Bruno to come in last summer, and I said that we can't rely on Pogba because he was a lot less settled than he seems to be now. Seems to be that he's going to sign a new contract, and he has settled down at the club. But at the time, I was saying for some reason he will go missing for a part of the season, and we won't have him to choose. Of course, he picked up an injury and disappeared for a long, long time. So we were shorn in that midfield, and the likes of your Pereiras, your Lingard, who now Ole's saying is not even worth it off the bench. We're starting a lot of games.
Yeah, and that was my point as well. So when you choose, and I believe Ole sit with the coaching staff and say, all right, we have Lukaku, and I mean, it's a no-brainer for me that Lukaku is a very good center forward, and he could convert chances when he gets a lot of chances. But considering our squad, we have like at the beginning of the season, it was more than a year ago. We hadn't a lot of like creativity. And we needed players up front who can create chances themselves, like Rashford, Martial, Greenwood. They could do it. Lukaku maybe cannot. And if we compare Lukaku with, let's say, Igalo, in terms of physical play, how to work his body and how to cover the ball. And I believe Igalo, he's like ahead of Lukaku in terms of like very
in terms of hold-up play, certainly.
Yeah. I mean, and that's why Ole maybe and Lukaku obviously was very overweighted, and it was funny really because when Ole did one interview and he was asked how do you cope with pandemic and stuff, he said, "Oh right, we have very very good players. They care about themselves. They look after themselves, and they don't come back 15 kilograms overweight." I said, "Uh-oh, is that about Lukaku?"
Yes, you do see it. I mean, of course, I can't imagine Lukaku's carrying actual fat, but it's muscle bulk, isn't it? It's too much muscle bulk. And you do see it with some players. Look, even like, say, Mbappe, some people are saying he might have put on a bit too much muscle, so he's lost that little bit of dynamism. Lukaku at Inter Milan looks like he's actually shaved off a little bit of that muscle, and he is a little bit more dynamic again. So, yeah, I certainly think that might be the case.
All right. We now need the reinforcement in the transfer window, and let's get closer to the transfers then. All this situation with Sancho and Borussia Dortmund, and I believe we are a bit in trouble right now because Glazers, there is a report. I don't really think that it's that reliable, but there is a report that Joel Glazer himself blocks the transfer of Jadon Sancho because it's obviously very big money and a very big stakes, and with all this pandemic stuff, you expect the price to be decreased. But I think United made it clear to the whole world that we are in the Jadon Sancho, and he's an option number one to strengthen our squad. And I think when you are in this situation, you need to go either all in, so to just splash the money on Sancho and get the player that all the fan base desperately wants, or you just say we will not do it, like very strictly and clearly, and go for the other targets. But at the moment we are in the situation that we are in for Sancho, we are in for everyone in this world, but no transfers, and it's been 1 month of transfer window open. What do you think of all of this?
Well, first of all, with the Joel Glazer thing, from what I've heard, Joel Glazer likes to sign off every big money move. So back in January, I don't know if you remember, when we were getting Bruno, there was rumours saying that Joel Glazer had blocked Bruno. But what happens is it goes to his desk and he does his due diligence, whatever that is, and then he signs off on the deal. So this was about a week ago that this happened. So I'm hoping that he's doing his dotting the I's and crossing the T's, because that's apparently the way he likes to work. So he's the one Glazer who is actually interested in the football club. He does call himself a fan, and he does like to get involved in it. So on that front, I don't think he's necessarily blocking it, but it has to go through him, and it has been something that has popped up that has apparently made us so slow in the transfer market. Normally you go from the manager to the decision maker, and that's it. We go from the manager to the decision maker, Ed Woodward, and then to the big decision maker above him, Joel Glazer. So on that front, I don't think necessarily it's being blocked yet, but I am an optimist. So I'm holding on, because really, although I do agree we've either got to get this done or move on, there's not a great deal of other options that fit us like Jadon Sancho does. We know he fits into the northwest of England. He grew up in the City Academy. We know he likes it up there. We know he wants to come back to England. He's young. He's posting numbers. Normally when you get a youngster in, they're not posting numbers. You think they might post numbers. He's posting assists and goals. He's played with lots of different dynamic players at Dortmund, at England, good friends with Rashford, knows Greenwood. There's so many things that are right about this transfer. And I was thinking this summer that I knew Chelsea would go big, and I thought we would too, because we've got a strong financial structure in terms of making money, not just from match day, not just from the club. We've got so many revenue streams. I thought this was a massive chance to close the gap on Liverpool and City. At this rate, they're going to increase the gap. So we do have to be careful. I still think it will happen. I still think we will get Jadon Sancho. But at the moment, I think we have to get this one over the line before we do anything else, because of the haggle we're doing with Dortmund. because we're saying we don't have the cash. If we go and spend 50 million on someone else, Dortmund are going to turn around and say, hang about. Well, you could have popped that in the Jadon Sancho fund. So I think I always thought we might have to wait till after the Europa League and the Champions League conclusion. It might be the case that Dortmund need to get a replacement in. You know, your Depay was playing in the Champions League with Lyon, and maybe that seems like a good replacement. They've reinforced a little bit as well, Dortmund. I still think it will happen. And on United's side, I think if we were going to make such a big transfer, it'd be a British transfer record, wouldn't it? I think we'd want to announce it ourselves, and we possibly want to announce it when there's not a Champions League final, Europa League final going on to kind of take the limelight off us. So
they now, the Glazers now in the situation that the whole world is aware of what we want, and the whole world, of course, know that Man United got the money. And Jadon Sancho, I still think it would be very hard to push Dortmund, because if we want to push something, we will need a bit of luck on our side, and as well, if the Dortmund has interest in Memphis Depay, or I believe it was Wilfried Zaha mentioned as well as a replacement to Sancho. And it's interesting because it's both players were playing for Man United, and I think in contracts of those two players we have a percentage that we will get if the player gets sold. So if any one of them joins Dortmund, we can use this as a part of Sancho deal. I mean, this small part of the budget. But I'm worried about not only about that the Sancho will come. I believe he will come. Unless it is too late, because obviously transfer window is open till 5th of October. And we're starting the season on 19th of September. And first two matches are against Crystal Palace and Brighton. And thank God we have the start of the season. The first tour is postponed because we were playing Burnley away. And if we were playing Burnley away without any new additions, and we lost, oh my God, such a negative start of the season. I wouldn't imagine this. But Crystal Palace at home, and then Brighton, I think, away. But then in first 7 tours, we have Arsenal, Tottenham. We have, I believe it's Chelsea and Everton. So it's a very hard start of the season, and all these 7 matches are happening before the end, before the transfer window closes. So I'm worried about if we sign Sancho at the end of the deadline, and so he will come after 7 games. And we already lost the season. He could be not enough to close the gap for us.
Well, and also if we leave it that late and we start bleeding points, then he might not want to come. That's the other thing, No, I agree, and it's something we have done, isn't it? With Bruno Fernandes, we waited till the end of January, and January was a mess. We didn't do well in January. That could have been sorted out and signed, sealed, and delivered on the 1st of January. And things could have been a lot different. And we did it with Harry Maguire as well, didn't we? We waited and waited and waited. And then, you miss pre-season, you take a bit of time to settle in and whatnot. So, I think if it's a case of, 5 or 10 million, then when you're talking such a large sum, we should just get it done. If the clubs are really so far apart, then it's a worry anyway, isn't it? Then it potentially won't happen. So, it's a hard one to work out, isn't it? There was so much noise about it. There was literally, it just seemed like it was going over the line, and then it just all went quiet suddenly.
But let's hope that we will get the news soon, because obviously if you look at the top 4 for next season, by the way, what's your expectation about next season? It's clear that it depends on the transfers solely, because one thing is that we get Sancho and maybe 1 or 2 players more. Although I think that if we get Sancho, Glazers could tell you, deal done, no one more. So what do you think about the next season, and what could be the target for this team and for Solskjaer?
Well, for me, I start every season thinking we're going to win the title. No matter what happens, I always start like that, because the thing is that you look at other teams that have won the title. You know, some people say, "Oh, you don't have a chance in the Champions League," but then you look at some of the teams that win the Champions League or get to the final, and you think, "Hang about." I mean, we beat Paris, didn't we, last year? And look at them now; they were just in the final. I know it shouldn't happen, but lots of things shouldn't happen. You know, Leicester shouldn't have won the league either, should they? So I always start thinking that we're going to win the league, and then I'm either massively happy at the end of the season or very disappointed. So I always think that. I think if I can take my red hat off just for a second, I would say that we've got to close that point gap. Look, we did finish third, but we've been 30 points off, haven't we? And teams these days win the title with a lot more points, which should say that there's a lot more points to be picked up in the league. Back in the day, you had title winners, you know, between 80 and 90 maybe. And, you know, lower league teams would take points off the big teams. Whereas now you see teams romping away. And so to me, that says that the lower teams are not maybe as good as they used to be. And if we can beat all the fodder and then, you know, scare the life out of the teams above us going into the last few months, why not? I always think we should be targeting that. And I think we've been a bit of a victim as a club, lowering the standards because we've been so hurt by some bad seasons that we kind of go, oh, well, at least we got Champions League. And at least it's not so long ago we were laughing at Arsenal for that. So for me, I always think we should aim for the top. And if we fall just short, then next season we can really go for it. But we can't be letting our deadliest rivals, you know, just be over the hill by Christmas. That's at the very least, we've got to close that gap and at least look like we're in the race for a bit and be really starting to make a statement that we are back. Because even though we finished third, we weren't in the top four for almost all the season, were we? We were, you know, we came up on the rails at the end and caught them with their pants around their ankles, as we like to say on the pod. But yeah, so for me, we've always got to start going for the title and go from there. What about yourself?
Well, I believe you mentioned lowering of expectations, and I'm a victim of this probably because you start to be because when United were winning, we were very strong and confident that if something happens, Fergie knows better. He will do something. I don't know, with Welbeck or Cleverly or just with anyone else. Phil Jones is a huge transfer, and so on. You know, at the moment, considering 7 years without such a genius like Sir Alex, and switching the managers, switching the philosophies, not backing the managers, you just hope that everything will just go in the right direction, and the right direction and the step forward for me for the next season will be finishing the top fourth, because Chelsea, okay, we beat them this season, but oh my God, they just ruining the football at the moment. They just buying every single player that is worth of quality. They don't count the money because they do need to force this team. They're getting rid of Willian and Pedro, very not very old, but okay, not so young players. They bring in young players and good players like Havertz and Werner and Ziyech, and also they are working on a free agent market. I don't really understand why United don't do this. I mean, it's the free agent. You have nothing to pay for the player. The player would be, I mean, I'm talking about Thiago Silva at the moment. He just played as a captain for PSG in the Champions League final, and now he's joining Chelsea. I mean, what's your motivation in joining Chelsea after playing the Champions League final? Only the big ambition, and now Chelsea are getting this ambition, and United isn't. So Chelsea are closing the gap, definitely. Tottenham, It's a very complicated club with a very familiar manager, and me personally, I love Jose. I mean, he's of course we know all these chants about Mourinho and his time at Chelsea. But I believe at United, if he was backed, we will be playing Champions League every year. We will be challenging the title, and okay. So at the Tottenham, the situation here is like the following. I see it as the following. He has good players. Like Tottenham has very, very good players. And of course, they were playing their best football last year, not this year. So they are maybe set to leave the club. If we are speaking about Hurricane and Son, obviously two big players, and maybe Lucas Moura. I don't know about Dele Alli. He seems to be disappeared at the moment. In terms of pandemic. Daniel Levy will not solve them, of course, and Mourinho can squeeze them this season and say, all right, you will go next season, but this season let's work out together and do as much as we can, and they can beat Man United, for instance, in battle for the top four, even playing with puck in the bus and just one goal, or like classic Mourinho, but it gets you results. And sometimes Man United is playing very, very good football, like with Copenhagen, but we didn't get. Of course, thanks to penalty, we did get the result. But I mean, we were creating, I believe, 11 crucial chances, 11, and we scored just once from the penalty spot. So I believe a lot of teams are improving, and United need to be not really in the race, but on the front foot, because obviously we will lost the season. We can lose season by the Christmas if we don't get the transfers. Anyway, getting back to my expectations, I believe top four in the Premier League, playoff of the Champions League. It would be great if we reach quarterfinals, but that's about the group stage draw and then the playoff draw. It's a bit of luck as well, and some kind of trophy, maybe, because 3 semi-finals without any trophy, that's not good enough.
It's a tricky one. I mean, first with the Spurs point, I think Spurs and Arsenal are not going to be as bad as they were last season, surely. Chelsea look like they'll be better than last season. City look like they're going to splash the cash a little bit, and they probably won't be as bad as last season. Liverpool probably won't be quite as good as last season, but in terms of top four, it's going to be more of a challenge. You'll still have Leicester there or thereabouts, I guess, just below. But I think those teams would be better next season, potentially. In terms of Mourinho, I always said when Fergie was going, we should have got him then. I always said, I said it again and again. I said, what we got to do is get the monkey off our back. We just got to win a title by hook or by crook, because otherwise it'll become a weight on our shoulders. And I wish I was wrong. But unfortunately, I think we got him at the wrong time. We had already had so many black eyes and bloody noses that we were so much weaker. And look, Mourinho, with the likes of Rio, Van Persie, Vidic, Evra, Carrick, he would have been able to squeeze that team another title, and the monkey would have been off our back, and we wouldn't have this massive thing that we do. Of course, we were never going to replace Fergie on the long term. I mean, he could even come in with an after-match interview after being spanked and say a few words, and you'd be happy again, wouldn't you? You think everything's going to be all right. It was unbelievable, really. Unbelievable from top to bottom with Fergie. But I think the tricky thing is that when we're setting these targets, you say top four, but then if we miss out on top four and finish 5th by goal difference, then do you say, or the alternate, we get top 4 by goal difference? Then is that what we're judging success and failure on? And then with the trophies, the Champions League would have to be a massive effort. Anyone can do it, so we should be going all out. But it would be, we're not going to be among the favourites, put it that way. And then the cup competitions, it comes down to one game, doesn't it? And before you know it, you're out. So it's such a tricky one. There aren't 20 cups to go around, but we do. That is the difference, isn't it, between success and failure? It is such a fine margins. I just wish we had been able to get this Europa League over the line this season, get that trophy, into Ole's pocket, not go the longest period of time now, isn't it? 3 years, the longest since I think since the beginning with Fergie, 85 to 89, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
Since the longest time we went without a trophy. So, yeah, I think the main thing this season, although we finished on the same amount of points, 66, we look a better team now going into the next season. You think there's more to come from Bruno. I'd like to see more from Pogba in that partnership. I think he's got so much more to his game. I love the maturity he's shown, but he could be a match winner as well. So you've got that. The front three, Mason Greenwood, he tied the record, didn't he, for a teenager? He can beat it next season. He'll still be a teenager. So you've got those players who potentially will improve, but at the same time, there's only so long we can go with saying, we're improving a little bit, but at the same time, we're not getting that much closer. If we were top four and we finish on, say 80 points, for instance, 14 points more, 5 more victories than this season, and we're in the mix with the cups, as you say, did well in the Champions League, looked like we belonged there, rather than sort of limping over the line and maybe squeezing out of the group and then getting bashed, then I'd see the progression again. But we can't wait too long, can we? Because as United fans, we're used to feasting on trophies and success, and there's only so long we can go without it, I think.
What is your standout player? Could be best player, could be worst player, could be like anyone.
Look, Bruno changed everything, didn't he? Bruno came in at the end of January and was, a blast from the past, if you like. Those players that come in, with their shoulders back and just change the whole atmosphere around the club. We've seen it with the Cantonars. You've seen it with Robin van Persie did it to an extent. I think Bruno, in terms of the change of mentality and the change of just results, the output of that guy from midfield is just ridiculous in terms of assists and goals as well. We finally got a penalty taker that we can rely on as well, which is nice. Yeah. I'm glad we're not doing the rotation thing anymore. But in terms of players, I mean, look, he's won 4 Player of the Month awards for United, which is just balmy stuff. So Bruno would be, I fall in love with him already. But I have to say, Mason Greenwood, I am a massive, massive fan as well. I love those kind of players where when they got the ball, there seems to be nothing on, and in a flash, he's banged one at the near post, he's curled one in the far top corner. No back lift to those shots, and they're sort of in before they leave his foot, aren't they? So, Mason Greenwood I absolutely love. And, those two are, for me, the standouts of the season. What about yourself?
Well, Bruno is definitely a contender for me. I was more looking into a very consistent players through the whole season, because obviously I did the podcast with the guy from the broadcast Oko Sport in Russia. Mm-hmm. So there he's a commentator of the matches, and he said, well, obviously in the first part of the season it was Rashford, and obviously in the second it was Bruno. So it is something between of them. But I mean, unsung hero, I believe, if we don't take the Seville match, is Aaron Wan-Bissaka. For me, at this age, coming from Crystal Palace, a lot of judgment, different pressure, different club, different mentality needed. And he showed this mentality. If you remember the matches against City or against Chelsea, Wan-Bissaka can assist. We go for Chelsea. He assisted Martial, and so on. So definitely that was a player of the season for me. In terms of young player, obviously Greenwood. So you cannot say anyone else. Of course, we have Brandon Williams as well. Came into the team, did a decent job, but I believe you can feel the lack of Lukashu, the lack of this experience. So yeah, and I believe if we were playing with Luke Shaw against Seville, we could have won this match because Luke Shaw is better at creating chances. He's better of overlapping the defender or the midfielder, the wingers, and creating spaces. He's left-footed, not the right-footed, so he doesn't spend time to switch to the working foot and spread the ball well. And he's also a very good tackler of the ball. Not always, but I mean, in general, you can see that Brandon Williams is not really ready to be a first choice on the left back. But again, if we speak positive, Martial and Rashford scoring over 20 this season. So yeah, that was.
Yeah, I think Martial and Rashford, they've had their great runs, haven't they? You know, Martial was a bit more consistent throughout the season. Rashford was superb, and then dropped off a little bit at the end. So I'd say, I mean, those two, the improvement, and also you don't think that's the end of their improvement either, do you? There's still so much more that Rashford can give, Martial can give. What are we talking about, 30, 35 goals a season? So that's one thing massively positive. I can't agree more about the Luke Shaw point. I think it was one of the reasons why Rashford struggled a little bit, actually. Shaw works so well with Rashford. As you say, the overlapping runs, which allows Rashford to cut in, which is one of his fortes. And the timing just seems to be on with them, doesn't it? Yeah. Whereas Brandon is a little bit less experienced, of course, doesn't want to leave himself exposed maybe so much, and is a bit more tentative. And of course, he was a right back until Ethan Laird came into the youth team and popped him on the left. So I think, what would you think in terms of the left back? Do you think we maybe need to get a backup in there, a left-footed backup? Because Shaw is a bit injury prone. I think there's times when Luke Shaw, when he got injured originally under Van Gaal, was looking just unbelievable, wasn't he? He was off the chain. But then he came back, and now he's a bit more mature in defence than he used to be, and he's becoming more productive in attack in terms of he's always an option. He chooses the right options. Do you think maybe we need an experienced guy out there and maybe let Brandon Williams cover for Wan-Bissaka?
Maybe, and I think we have two left backs available in Portugal. It's Alex Telles from Porto and Grimaldo from Benfica. Both guys are amazing, and adding the competition to Luke Shaw, which will make him even better, and adding some fresh blood into this very very British team, because obviously Bruno. Ole is building a British team. He seems to be in love with the British guys, and that's the story, because with class of '92, Man United always had some British players as a core. Ole seems to revitalize this, but again, if you're looking on the football abilities, the players from Portugal, France, and so on, you can just say, okay, they could do a better job and cost less money. So, and Grimaldo, by the way, from Benfica, he was a top prospect at Barcelona Academy at La Masia. So he's now one of the best left backs in the world. So why not get him? If we won't get him, someone will. It's just, of course, it's about how he will settle in the team. Does he have the right mentality, and so on and so forth. But chasing those players are essential for getting Man United to where we belong.
Yeah, and you talk about those teams back in the 90s, they were always interspersed with great foreigners as well, weren't they? You had your Schmeichels, your Kanchelskis, your Cantonars in the original team, and all throughout we always had a nice blend. We are a massively international club anyway, and of course a nice blend of British players as well. So although the thing is that in the past we were kind of the Bayern Munich of the Premier League, where we'd be able to pick up the best of the other teams at a reasonable price, and just pluck them off and stick them in the side. But now it's not so easy, is it? You seem to pay more for your English players or your British players. And I definitely think we need that blend when going into the market, 100%.
As a final question to you, we have a very bright academy talents. Who would you think would be a Mason Greenwood of the next season?
You know what? I was thinking about this the other day, and it seems like most of our talents that are potential to get into that first team are potentially going to go on loan this season. I particularly like James Garner in the central midfield. I love him as a player. I think he's fantastic, versatile. There's Hannibal, who I like the look of as well. I think I've heard that, you know, the step up's going to be the 23s. He's very young, so he's going to go from the 18s to the 23s. He looks like a right player as well. Ethan Laird has had massive rave reviews. He was always seen as the kind of the better of the two out of him and Brandon Williams, but he's got Aaron Wan-Bissaka ahead of him. So the problem here is that, you know, you say you're Garner, he would have to then come in and hold the midfield. That's such a specialist role. To expect him, even McTominay, to hold on his own is a bit much at this stage. So for someone to break in, it's tricky. Of course, with Greenwood, he started off, you know, coming in off the bench, and then you get a goal or two, and then you're in. Whereas further back, the focus is more on your mistakes, isn't it? As you see with Brandon Williams, you know, people pick out that he didn't block the cross or whatever. Whereas at the other end, if Mason Greenwood misses a chance, then he's got another chance to bang in later, or we say, oh, he's young. So yeah, potentially Garner's been one of my particular favourites. Yeah, I'd probably go for him. What about yourself?
Okay, I mean, for me, it's obvious that maybe Mason Greenwood was a bit lucky as well. He did a very good job, but I mean, we are short in positions, in attacking positions. So we had a gap on the right flank, and obviously Greenwood is not the right forward. He's a centre forward, but then he fits the role. He can do the job, a very good job for the team. So he gets more and more time, and we see how he shines. In terms of defenders, you mentioned Ethan Laird, and I think that will be the guy for me, because I was thinking about Ted Mengi as well. He was training with Ethan Laird and with the first team in the preparations of Europa League matches this year, which shows the faith of Ole into this guy. He's a very young guy. He's, I think, 18 or something.
Yes, he is. Yeah, he's 18. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's the captain of under 18. He was playing under 23 as well last season, and he can play centre back, either left back. So yeah, could be this guy or could be Ethan Laird. But again, it comes to the competition in the team, and I believe the defense. We have the largest competition in defense, because if you think, okay, maybe the substitutions are not so good, but they need time as well. And to play ahead of them, you need to outwork them on training. So if we're talking about the right backs, we have Wan-Bissaka, we have Timothy Fosu-Mensah over there, we have Diogo Dalot. Oh my God, he's still there. Then in terms of centre backs, of course, Harry Maguire, Lindelof, Bailly. We have Tuanzebe, where he is. He did the surgery, I think, and now he recovers. But again, Tuanzebe could be the good fit. And as a left back, you have again Luke Shaw, Brandon Williams. Fosu-Mensah can play there. Diogo Dalot can play there. So to get into these defensive positions, you need to outwork those guys. And Ethan Laird may be worth attention, because Fosu-Mensah can be playing everywhere. Like he's, I would say, maybe John O'Shea in a modern era. And as a profile right back, Ethan Laird would be the guy for me.
Yeah, I'd say when it comes to the youngsters, it's a funny one, isn't it? When we had our more successful years, when we had a stronger team, a stronger squad, it's much easier to blood the youngsters. You know, when you put games to bed, you know, when you're 3-0 up, 4-0 up, you can put these guys on, just give them a little taste 10 minutes, give them a little taste 15, 20 minutes. And then they grow into the squad as well. Whereas at the moment, we're always seemingly under, like, our biggest game of the season happens about 20 games a season these days, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So we and all those players we've mentioned, I love Tedamengi as well, but when do we play him? Because we can't afford. Youngsters are going to make mistakes, and though they're in those positions where you're going to be magnified. United is such a massive club with such a focus on it. You see how we grab headlines more than any other club, and we need to get that success, and then it's so much easier for the youngsters to then come through.
Okay.
I've got one question for you as well, actually, before we finish.
Yeah, let's
regarding go. Well, it is regarding an academy graduate as well. Goalkeeping wise, of course, Dean Henderson looks like he's not going back to Sheffield United. They've got Ramsdale in from Bournemouth, paid about 18 million for him, so he's not going back there. He said his goodbyes. Do you think he's going to stay and compete with David De Gea? Do you think that's a good idea? Or do you think maybe we're looking for a different loan, maybe to a team with European football?
Well, it's a very, very interesting question because obviously we did a bit of research and we saw in other podcasts the guys in Russia, they were speaking with the goalkeeper coach, and they discussed the De Gea situation, and Dean Henderson and so on, and it was very interesting what they said, because obviously before watching this, I was okay, let's bring on Dean Henderson because we are fed up of De Gea mistakes, and it cost us points. The main thing is that it doesn't matter if you miss the goal or just concede anything else, or just kick the ball and from Calvert-Lewin into your own goal, unless it costs you points, and it cost us points this year. So
and last year at the end as well.
Yeah. Let's go to Dean Henderson. He could play, but I think he's not ready for Man United just yet. And I believe the reason why we put him out of Sheffield, we will loan him to a more serious club, I would say. Of course, Sheffield did a great job this year, but I think it wouldn't be that that solid. They wouldn't be in the race for the European competitions this year or next year. Sorry. So I believe we will go with the loan, maybe to Everton, because they obviously have a goalkeeper issue, because they have on the bench they have Stekelenburg, the Dutch guy, and the first keeper isn't good enough as well, even though he's a first team choice for the England squad. So Everton could be an option for the loan of Dean Henderson to gain this experience, and then maybe back if he will show that he will perform at the level higher than the Sheffield. In terms of this research that they did with the goalkeeper coach, he said, okay, you now have two goalkeepers at Man United. First, it's Dean Henderson, very young, very confident, but he doesn't play at this level just yet, and he can, if he can cope the pressure, then it's okay. But imagine Dean Henderson will get the number 1 shirt, and then he just starts to make mistakes. He's dead.
We've discussed this, and if you look through the history, playing for United is a different kettle of fish. This is a different story totally. You see the focus on our players and our keepers especially. You look through all our keepers. We'll go back to Schmeichel. He had the magnifying glass on him at the beginning. He made quite a few bloopers. You have to get through that. Van der Sar at the beginning, people questioning him, came from Fulham. They said, is he finished? David De Gea, exactly the same. The test at United is every single mistake will be magnified. He made a few for Sheffield United this season. Everyone's going to be on your back, and you have to get through that stage, come out the other side, and then you're a United keeper. The problem we'd have if we had De Gea and Henderson is that when he makes a blooper, which he will make a blooper, and that's no criticism of Henderson at all. Keepers make bloopers, and it just depends who you play for. He'll make a blooper, and then we put De Gea in, and then we wait for De Gea to make a blooper, and then we put Dean Henderson back in, and you potentially burn both keepers. You've lost. De Gea knows you have no faith in him anymore. His confidence goes even further down. Dean Henderson is gone. What I'd suggest, we've got a nice little opportunity with the Euros coming a year later. If we can find a decent loan for Henderson, if he can work his way into that England side, if he plays in the Euros, it's a perfect dress rehearsal to then say, look, he can handle the pressure of playing for England as number one. Obviously not as big a job, but potentially then he would then be a little bit more ready to come in and take the number one shirt potentially.
Yeah, that's what the keepers coach as well said. If you have one keeper, very young, confident, but didn't play at this level at all, and you have the experienced one, but made some mistakes, and you just start switching them, you receive two good choices of the second goalkeeper, but you don't have first choice. And this is the thing about De Gea. I still believe we will loan out Dean Henderson and we'll go stick to David De Gea. Maybe it's a shame for Sergio Romero and he will leave us this year because obviously he needs time. He didn't play in those semi-finals that we were getting at, and it's a no-brainer for him. I believe we will lose Romero this season, this transfer window.
Yeah, the only potential I can see, and it's very un-United, it's very it's not a very English football thing to do. We've seen it happen at Real, we've seen it at PSG, we've seen it at Barcelona, and a number of other clubs as well, Juventus, I believe, as well, Buffon and Szczesny, where one keeper plays the league games and the other keeper plays the cup games. And we're not talking about Romero playing the lesser cup games, and then when it comes to the crunch, De Gea obviously being number one. We're talking about one of them plays Champions League, League Cup and FA Cup every single game, and that's the end of it, barring injury. The other keeper plays all the league games, and that's the way to do it. I personally, I'm not a fan of it. I know your friend Jose Mourinho was the first real guy. Remember, back in the day, in English football, your first team keeper played every single game. He played FA Cup games, League Cup games, Champions League games, and Premier League games. That's it. They don't run around. They don't need a rest, and that was our mentality. But then Mourinho came in, and he would always have his guy play the cup games, and gradually it spread throughout the league as more foreign managers came in. I don't think it's a good road to go down because, again, you're not putting your full faith in either of them. But that's the only potential thing if we're going to keep both of them, which we might at this rate.
Okay, yeah, we'll finish here. Let's comment this. Put in the comment section your thoughts on the next season, on the transfers. TC, thank you very much to come into our channel. It was very great to have you and to attend on your podcast as well. Guys, subscribe to if you speak English, subscribe. All the links will be in the description at any platform, and listen to 100% UnitedPod. Yeah,
thank you so much for having me, Alexei. Absolute pleasure. Good luck with the channel. Good luck everyone with the new season, and I hope we've got something to celebrate at the end of it.